So it's really important that people are able to ask questions about the world that we live in, where they ask questions and then they receive answers. The problem is that when people ask the questions and receive the answers, because they're motivated to believe that the world is full of conspiracies, they ignore what is being said. That is problematic. So in the ideal world, you'll have a place for people to ask questions, for experts to evaluate those questions, and indeed, if it's shown to be not true, then that question is then not pumped out to the wider public. What happens in reality is that these questions are asked, but they then get traction immediately. Even though scientists and experts alike are working to say, well, no, that is not true for X, Y, Z reason, that belief is already in the reefer. So it's a real challenge to try and think about how we enable people to ask questions, but ensure that fake news doesn't get out there. But I think the perfect point that the person mentions is that when it leads to offline harm, in essence, that is, I think, a really important point. And that's where I think it should be stopped. But that when it can have a tangible impact in the real world, then that information is problematic and it should be pushed away. So in other words, that people can't be easily accessing this information. But conspiracy theories have existed since the start of time. So just by banning them, let's say on Facebook or Twitter, they're not going to go away. People who are invested in these beliefs will use other platforms. They will go and speak to others offline. So I think it's a mixture of social media companies acting and making sure that fake news that is shown to have a real harmful intent behind it is not on their platform, but also individuals work to try and understand how to evaluate information, which could be via schooling or it could be via different sources, giving people skill sets how to evaluate evidence. So I think in the ideal world, it's a mixture between these two platforms and also society, the governments, ensuring that the public have the skill sets to answer the question. So free speech, I think it is important that people can ask questions, as I said at the start, but there are limits to the questions that can be asked.